I believe we're about ready to start. Is everyone? You're back. Good. Okay. Welcome tonight. No rain so far. I had a few little raindrops as I was coming over, but not much. So, and I didn't bring my raincoat tonight, so I'm not warding it off. Well, we'll see what happens. See, it looks like, do we want roll call before the pledge tonight? Okay, roll call, please, Robin.
Commissioner Hensick. Chair Stevens.
I'm here.
Commissioner Slaughter. Commissioner Hammond is not with us. Secretary Roughton. Vice Chair Bockert. Commissioner Rubis.
Here.
And our alternates are not here. Commission Liaison Broyles.
Here.
And Council Liaison Rambo. And our Student Route 66 Task Force Liaison, Nolan Myers.
Yep.
All right, we have quorum.
Hey, thank you very much. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Alan, would you lead us tonight, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
State.
To the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Okay, well, we have a lot of exciting things to be talking about tonight. I would like to call attention to two of our students on the Route 66 Student Task Force. We knew that we had been given some really great kids, young people, I shouldn't say kids. And it just comes to light. Nolan has placed second in history and fourth in geography and going to nationals, right?
Yeah.
Can you want to tell us a little bit about it?
So I a couple weeks ago I was in Columbia for the regional bees, and then soon I'll be in Arlington, Virginia through June 1st through 4th for the national history and geography bees.
Fantastic. We're really proud of you and wish you all the best. Thank you. My goodness. And then Chiruthi is 7th or 8th grader at Wildwood Middle School. Nolan is at LaSalle Springs. And Chiruthi is at Wildwood Middle School. And I saw her picture on Facebook this week. She was in Jeff City accepting the Enterprise Award from the state. So she looks so sweet, and she's always has that nice little smile. So be looking for some announcements, I think, coming from Rockwood. I don't know who had posted the picture on Facebook, but we've got some young people who are doing more than just our Route 66 work. And we're very proud of all of them. So that's great. I think is this where we're welcoming Ashley? Yes. Ashley, right down here. We welcome you to a great commission. It's the commission that has a lot of fun, and we like each other too. So we're one big happy family. So welcome aboard. We're anxious to get to know you. Joe, you have something to say as well?
Well, certainly, I'm sure Miss Slaughter can give some background about herself, but just to let you know, she's also on our Wildwood Celebration Commission.
All
We're
right.
working on that annual event with the rest of us. And I would also, when you have time, Madam Chair, like to have Mr. Lee introduce himself. I don't know if everybody knows him, so
Okay,
He is on Zoom tonight and he is our interim city administrator.
hey. Your
Didn't
turn
know if that
now.
was a segue, but I do appreciate everyone here and everything that you guys do. It really is special, especially with the student task force. Just wanted to give a shout out to Nolan. That's a really big accomplishment. I remember doing that when I was his age. So very, very excited for that whole group and everything they've done. And just want to say thanks to everybody here. And I'm looking forward to working with you guys in this capacity for as long as it takes. And keeping everything here, keeping Wildwood wild, and keeping the history of Route 66 and all the other great landmarks we have in this city, maintained and retained. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ashley, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Ashley Slaughter. I live in Ward 1. I'm relatively new to Wildwood. My husband grew up here. I was previously in DC and part of that Chicago. About a year and some change ago, I went completely remote and he got to pick where we lived and he said, we're going back to Wildwood. So we purchased our home a year ago tomorrow.
Wow.
And I've loved being here. I've jumped in and got involved as soon as I could. I think my favorite part about Wildwood is it really feels like it's such a tight-knit community. And we're not that small. We're, a small little metropolis, but it all gives great small town feels. I love all of the events we have. And when I met with Robin, I was telling her I'm just such a big fan of everything that was going on with Route 66. And I keep up in the Wildwood Quarterly newsletter. So it was really exciting when I was appointed to this committee because it was something that I was really interested in. So excited to come alongside you guys as you guys are already several inch binder deep worth of work. So looking forward to digging in with you guys. Thank you.
Has everyone looked over the minutes of the March 23rd meeting? Does anyone find any thing that we have left out or that needs to be corrected? Hearing none, we will approve them by general consent. Do we have any other public comment?
Madam Chair, we have one speaker card from Mr. Essen, who's in attendance tonight.
Okay. Does he speak at this time?
My name's Carl Essen. I'm here because I learned about the fantastic news with the Essen cabin possibly being reconstructed in the property close to City Hall. And I'm like the sexton for the Essen Cemetery. My dad's in there, and June Essen. She arrived in July of 22, and we have about 30 people in the cemetery right now. And back in 2011, I was working with Angela in McLean, Virginia, and I sent information to your assistant parks person about her. She has on a genealogy around 102,000 names, and she goes back to the 1482 in Germany. But there's a flock of her Pullmans from the German side, not the Pullman railroad car, but the Germanic Pullmans. Then they apparently have a beer company over there back then. They came to St. Louis, and she is probably about 14% of the descendants of the log cabin. And we started working on the tree because of the cemetery in 2011. And she basically generated the other 80 some percent for a complete tree, which is work in motion. And I can say that from the handout I passed to you, we identified the first generation of the cabin was 2%. Now the second generation is 8%. The third generation is 11%. The fourth generation is 30%. The fifth generation is 34%. The sixth generation is 13%. And now we have a seventh generation is 2%. But I got a feeling that might be jumping pretty quick because we're finding all kinds of born Essens or descendants from the Essen blood. with the cabin. But I thought the exciting news, you guys were talking about the Daughters of American Revolution. And on the handout, we so far identified that we have 5 Essence Living that could elect to be found. You have to fill, to be a membership, you have to fill an application out to who could come part of DAR at the cabin. And something I'll probably encourage. And then 3 male, which is SAR, Sons of the American Revolution. And so that's pretty exciting news on that behalf. In the handout, the state of Missouri on the Secretary of State site publishes your death certificate after 50 years you died. And I gave you a snapshot in the lower right-hand corner. There's a part number, and that's the part number that Angela has for that particular person, how we talk and track people. So we have the name, the part number, and then the date born. And Carrie Von Grubb, she's involved with your book, and Jill is involved with your book, and that's her connection to the Essen family through her husband, David. And you're part of the book as well. And what a fantastic book that is. I appreciate what you guys are doing with the history of the book and everything like that. I was here for the timber turning party because Jim Mansour, who's a Wildwood resident, he took him up there years before, and he took high resolution raw images. And that's what your architect used to identify the different, I call it timbers, of what it is. Now, part of my discussion was through my business side, the ISIS people destroyed many relics over in the Baghdad wars and everything like that. And we have a computer program that we're going to do for free for Wildwood, where in their case, they took tourism pictures and they got enough pictures put together. They recreated a virtual of the different temples these guys blew up. Now, my discussion on the trees and everything, which is one of my talking points, was if we shoot the end grain of all the timbers we identified, we could see which timber was connected to what timber, because it's like a fingerprint of the core of the tree. And then we could probably make a virtual showing the tree standing in the woods and show it come down and have it rebuild the cabin, and then do an aerial of the cabin. And because we are now identifying all the people who have died, then it races out and it shows where the essence went in the ground across, a lot of it in Wildwood, but across the United States, and possibly set up like a marketing program for the future of the cabin and everything like that. Now, my companion Arlene, I lost her. I lost her by ALS. And we did the best we could, and lost her back in September. And she's been a part of me with this stuff with the essence and so forth like that. But one thing I learned was, because of these things from 2011, and then she was a courtroom sketch artist, and I barraged the media that the cabin was down. And the last page you'll see when we drove to Thanksgiving dinner at Jim's place is my witness to you of what the damage to the cabin was on Thanksgiving Day. And that's how much it was torn down. And at the time, I thought the Wildwood was reclaiming the cabin, and then the cabin was stolen. And I wish, Arlene was driving, and that's what I saw. I thought that was important to put a mark in the sand when that happened. But I guess the reason I brought her up is that there's a component with the fact that the younger generation can understand, is that ALS is familiar, and then there's sporadic. And there's about 5,000 to 8,000 people US that get told they have ALS, and we have about 18,000 United States that are living with it. And there is, Dr. Bedlack Duke University has 65 people, 67 people right now certified that have reversed the ALS. And we were talking to 3 to 4 of those people mimicking what they're doing. And that's where we have the Arlene Creates art show that started out Selkirk's back in December, where she created art where she lost her speech, she lost her grabbing things. And, but then she was able to grab her chalk or pens and everything like that. And she started doing art. And then they were trying to give us an eye gaze machine. And she started speaking again. But I lost her another technicality of high CO. But the trick was, the first thing they asked about genealogy at the Miller Lab was Washington University of, well, do you have heredity of that problem? So I had to do a search, and they were scratching it out in the place there. But because of this effort here, and unbeknownst for you guys and everything like that, within 3 days, I created an 85% accuracy of the history of if she has ALS in her family, if there's Parkinson's in her family. And I guess that could be something I can support on the value of genealogy and how you can do this and everything like that. So, but I see all kinds of teaching activities of how the cabin's being positioned in the windows that used to look towards the barn or highway, old Etherton Road. It's now going to look at the community garden and how nice you guys have decided to place the cabin, as what I understand, and to show that how things grow around the cabin and everything like that. And I think Jill's going to be very helpful for me in understanding the interconnected heritage through the Wildwood Historic Society and so forth, and the greatness of what you guys are doing. Whatever I can do to help out on fundraising, and the fundraising will not stop at the cabin, but we'll start with programs for these type people here to support, security, safety in the cabin, to support them. I believe the fundraising should not stop because of the greatness of a neutral meeting zone, of greatness to support the greatness of what Wildwood, Missouri is.
Thank you very much. Jim?
Yes. Yeah. Army? I'm the grandson of FX. My dad's Don's my uncle. My dad and my grandpa and FX started Essen Chevrolet, and because of my relationship with the Secretary of State, if you put in Don Essen Chevrolet, which is Essen Chevrolet, you actually see the paperwork with their signatures on in the state of Missouri back in the 50s. And my grandfather, he collected money during the Depression and having built a new Baldwin school, which I have that paperwork. He brought city water out to Baldwin. I actually have the letters he wrote to Orville about he's interested in my grandma, and it's and I was in the parade when they widened Manchester Road to 4 lanes, when I went from the drive-in movie theater to Cherry Hills Country Club, and then they got involved in starting Forest Hills Country Club. But we had an airplane, and we used to tie down at Spirit before they had tower, and we would drive over there and see the cabin. And we didn't go to the cabin, but I see black smoke coming out, and I remember seeing that cabin as a little kid and everything like that. And I wished I asked the questions, but I didn't.
Don't we all?
And but the trick is what I'm tickled about is, from what I can tell, all this Essence have clean noses and hadn't had any real problems with scandals or banking scandals or things and so forth. But yes, and that was Essence Chevrolet was sold to Jack Taylor, called Elko Chevrolet now, and now that spun off, and now it's back to private hands. I was on. My dad, Dave Essen, and then Helen James were the people involved in getting the historic plates on the Ball Essen house. And I used to go out there where the spring was in there, and there'd be a dipper there, and you drink your water like that. I used to pick eggs in the chicken coop, and then there's I believe with horseshoeing the mules was because my grandfather was shoemaker and bootmaker from Philadelphia. Now, if you look in the Post-Dispatch articles written by Tony Mesmer and so forth, I'm the one that says my grandmother, who's a Kennedy from the John F. Kennedy family, but maybe not. But she had to throw a cow off the boat for the ballast and everything like that. But I believe that there's a lot of heritage, and I wish to learn someday about Fred Essen, who was a congressman for this area. I believe it's not direct in my group, but there might be a connection why we're here, because Grandma used to talk about Hugo, and he was in what we call the Clayton Essence, and the Essence with Victor Essen had the rock contract for making Bagnell Dam, and but the issue is that where Monsanto Research, which I was an engineer for, as well as One Bell Center downtown and different projects like that, the subdivision is called Essen Farms. And so there's a lot of heritage spread out through the community. In my case, I put the name pavers around Busch Stadium when you go to a baseball game. That's me. I built the retaining wall system at Two Hill Performing Arts Center. That's me. I did the Air and Space Museum, stuff on Saudi Arabia. But that's the engineering side of the Essence and everything. My dad, he drove a tow truck to WashU, and the two boys that went to college was my dad, my uncle, and that was WashU. But then he brought a wreck back because we had AAA station number 11, that the tow district was between Clayton and then the county line and between the two rivers. And so I still don't know why they at Castlewood, they had moonshine in the basement. They almost blow buildings up with their stills and everything like that. Gambling places, who imagine? But I'm here to support you on that history and learn more. I believe there's a very great power of the Wildwood History Society. Now, I heard, and I got it in my notes, but I don't have it right with me, but the Etherton, there was Etherton people that lived in the cabin after the Essence. And that I'm trying to seek that out. I believe some Essence lived in there. And I now had one, but now I got three people saying they might have images of the cabin. And put a request out of the history of the ownership who might reside there as best they can. And it dawned on us, and it's going to be between Mark Essen and Jill Von Grubb, that I believe we'll have a hard bloodline because of this effort of what you see here of the descendants from the Ball Essen farmstead, which is in Wildwood. And, you know, because it's, we had the cabin, but then those people didn't go away, and then they had the farmstead. And once I tie that in, all the death certificates, yeah, it brings a big picture. So, did you know, Don? Yeah. Don said it, every time he took somebody golfing over at Stills, he would sell a car. They complain about doing that. And then with Jones, with the Merrimack Bank, we have dinners over there when they went quail hunting and everything. And, or you had to learn how not to eat the buckshot that's in the bird and everything. And I like big meat and everything, but these birds are like real small. And so you had to eat like 5 or 6 of them And, but that's what I remember. I wish I asked more questions, but I'm ramping it as best I can for you guys.
Well, we thank you very much
Thank
because
you.
I think each one of us know exactly what you're feeling and going through because history is so important. And we thank you for anything that you can provide to us.
Whatever other way I can help the city out.
That's wonderful.
You got my phone number and contact. I thought this was the best way to introduce myself
Okay, thank you. It's good to
And-
meet you.
and the rest of my family to help out as well. I already found like 3 more people who wish to get buried there. And what we gain is that them and their kids will hang around and they'll do the perpetual care.
Yes, that's very important.
And that's where Mark comes in. We have to cut some tree limbs down. And he even brings a pickup truck and he hauls away back to Holt Summit because he uses it burn in the fireplace. So we don't even leave trash around. We police it because this is our town.
Thank you very much for coming this evening. Okay, moving along now to old business. We have the first item is the National Society Daughters of American Revolution Historic Preservation Recognition Award. And I think Travis is going to put a picture up. 3 or 4 of us, Dan and Alan and myself and Robin went to the award ceremony, and it was at the, I'm showing my age. I always say Salem in the Dew because that's what its name was when I joined there 40 some years ago. And now it's Salem, St. Louis. So, but it's at 40 in Lindbergh and kind of known as the Crossroads. And it was in our great room. And the O'Fallon chapter happens to be my DAR chapter. And that's what makes it so special to me. Because as I said, when I announced it at the last meeting, I had nothing to do with this, except when they contacted me and said, we want to do this award for your group. Can you give us some more information? Well, you know, I was Johnny on the spot with some more information, but it was a delightful morning. And there were other awards given there for the honor flight from for the veterans. And there was a quilt of valor given to a lady who lives out here in Wildwood. I cannot remember her name off the top of my head, but she received a quilt of valor and she was so cute. They held it up for her to see, and then she was talking. And so they very nicely folded it back up for her. She got ready to go back to her seat. She said, "Where's my quilt?" But it was very, very nice. And the picture here shows Barbara Smith, hard name to remember. She's got the red hat on there, standing next to me, and Dan and Alan, and we each received a recognition pin. And that's what's on the white thing around our necks, and a certificate. And at our next meeting, we have certificates for each member of the commission, and as well as one for Mr. Scott. He will be with us at the next meeting to receive that. And it's exciting. I gave a few thanks in my remarks that morning as Freddie Frog or Gravely Gertie, because I was losing my voice, which I did the next day. It's bad when Jan can't talk. But it was really nice. And Robin asked me to speak a little bit about the quilt that's in the background there. It's huge, as you can see in the picture. And in 2010, our chapter celebrated their 100th anniversary as a Daughters of the American Revolution chapter. And we had a huge celebration up at Glen Echo Country Club. And I worked on the activities for it for 5 years before it actually took place. But about 3 years before the celebration, someone decided we should make a quilt. And so blocks were handed out to individual members, and they did the embroidery work on them. And around the edge on each side are the little lavender pieces of fabric that you see there. And that's the name and the years that each chapter regent has served the 100 years of the chapter. And mine's about fourth from the bottom on the right-hand side. Robin picked it out immediately from when I was the regent. But it's something that we cherish because that was all done by our members, but we did take it out to Catholic Church in Washington, Missouri to have it quilted. So it is all hand quilted. There's no machine work done on the quilt at all. And the award ceremony every year, we always have that as our backdrop. So it was an exciting time. And I have a thank you card to send to the chapter. So I'm going to start it with Ashley. And just as it comes around, sign your name on it and we'll send it to them. So they have it for their next. And you have a copy of the letter that we received from the National Vice Chairman of the Historic Preservation Commission, our committee. And I have worked on these award ceremonies for years and years, and they've always been very nice. Each year it seems to get a little better. But we send in an application for an award and it's either approved or not approved. And then they give you permission to get the certificates. And I have never seen a letter come back like this letter that you have in your packets. I was just astounded. So I forwarded it on to Robin so that we could each have a copy of it, because it's, well, she just, as the chapter chairman said, when she would talk to her at various times, she goes, I cannot believe this group of people. So I'm very proud. And as I know you each are as well. Then after that next week, I received a little card in the mail. And I go, this looks like an invitation. What am I invited to? Well, no, it was a letter from one of the chapter members. She's 91 years old. And she wrote this to us. Dear Jan and committee, just a note to thank you and congratulate you for earning the NSDAR Historic Preservation Recognition Award. You are doing a great job by making a map and producing a contest to get people to stop and appreciate the history of our area. It helps all of us to think about all the people who work so hard to build Wildwood as a good place to live. May we strive to imitate those who built a strong foundation so we can continue to develop a great place to live and work. Thank you for your hours and hours of special work. Beverly McIntosh. Beverly has lived in the Ellisville area for over 60 years. So she has seen a lot of what has happened to this area out here. And she and her daughter is Beverly, the regent, and they did almost all of the scavenger hunt. There were just a few things that they ran out of time and effort because of everything that was going on in their lives. But she had a blast doing that. So that was good to hear. So I'll have to give Beverly a hug next time I see her. Anything else on that, Robin?
The only thing I would say is that your chair represented this commission well at that ceremony. She did a very nice job summarizing just the amazing work that you all do each and every day as a part of this commission. So the department thanks you for your service and congratulates you on this recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving along now is the student Route 66 task force updates. Robin, are you starting or is Nolan?
Thank you. Our movie night went really, really well. We had between 50 and 60-ish cars show up, plus everybody who sat in front on their chairs and blankets and things. Our tent got a lot of attention. A lot of people came to stop by and got to learn a little thing about Route 66. also at youth was really good at announcing. He was, told everybody when the movie was starting, and our raffle for attending, he led that. I mean, he did a really good job of that. So thank him and thank everybody for who helped out with this. I'm gonna pass it on to Robin now.
All right, thank you, Nolan. Yes, the Student Route 66 Task Force really knocked it out of the park at Route 66 movie night. I think one of the highlights was the pre-movie video that they developed, which just summarized so well all of the different work that they had been doing. They highlighted the Route 66 roadside park project. They really sold the scavenger hunt, and just I think just had some infectious enthusiasm about the Route 66 revitalization work. So it was really exciting to see that. And another highlight of that night was the winner of the attendance prize, a real Route 66 aficionado, all decked out in his Route 66 gear. So excited to win the prize, but apparently this was his last stop for the Route 66 scavenger hunt. So he earned that prize because he had done the entire scavenger hunt and he was there for his selfie. So I got his submission form the next day. So it was a good night. It was a good night. And thank goodness we didn't plan for an alternative scenario because it was beautiful. The alternative scenario happened the next night.
Yes.
But moving on, the Route 66 scavenger hunt is having its final weekend this weekend. So it's time for people to start submitting their forms. We're doing a final push. Rockwood School District is helping us out doing a push. We're doing a promotions push, getting an event out there. Several teachers have actually called me this week and said that they're pushing their students in their classrooms to go out and do it this weekend. So hopefully we'll have a really nice finish to a really great initiative. And I'm very excited for that. The next step will be for the Student Task Force to do a live stream event, draw those raffle tickets and present the prizes to the winners. And then finally, lastly, but certainly not less importantly, the Student Route 66 Task Force is getting recognized at the May 8th City Council meeting. And this group is invited to attend as well and show your support. And everybody is also invited afterwards to go out for ice cream at Silver Spoon Ice Cream and Sweets. We'll be having a little ice cream social party in celebration at that time. So please, we do welcome you to attend and we hope that you will. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving along, addition of a youth liaison to the commission.
Okay, I should have just stayed up here at the
There
microphone.
you go.
But thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. In June of last year, the department started introducing the idea of youth liaisons to this commission. And at the time, we are looking at formalizing the addition of youth liaisons in the bylaws and in the ordinances governing this commission. At the time, we were just establishing the Student Route 66 Task Force, so that was taking off. And we hadn't yet, I believe, had Mr. Nolan Myers. Yes, you started in the fall. We still hadn't yet had a youth liaison on the commission with us. However, it has been a year and we've had a chance to pilot what I hope you will all agree has been a very successful experience with this commission of having youth participate within its activities in various ways, including serving directly on the commission. Now that we've been able to do that, we'd love to revisit this discussion about formalizing youth liaisons and building that into the very fabric of this commission. We believe that it will continue to fulfill a number of work plan goals that have been on the historic preservation work plan for the last several years. We do think that this is a model program, really involving youth in historic preservation and planning. And it will better integrate the work of any future youth engagement efforts and build that into the various perspectives introduced to this commission during its activities. So let's continue the multi-generational engagement. So tonight, assuming you are still supportive of this measure, because I believe we were last spring, we'd like to discuss a number of questions with you about how we would like to see the youth participation built into the commission. And with your feedback, the department will then take that feedback and develop language into the HPC bylaws and into some draft amendments to the ordinance to talk over with city leadership and our city attorney. So I believe Travis has those questions on the screen before you this evening. And I guess we can start out with first, is everybody in agreement that youth liaisons is still something that should be discussed by this commission? And do you want to move forward with that discussion?
Comments from the commission? Jim?
Different perspective.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Elizabeth?
How many students are you considering being on this commission?
The department was proposing one or two youth liaisons at a time.
I would highly recommend two, because if one has obligations somewhere else on the time that we meet, I think two would be helpful. Thank you.
I would love to talk about point number 2. The word appointment, I feel like is obviously great when we're talking about like a commission, but just to be equitable, to allow for kids who might not necessarily, I feel like there can be some extrovert bias whenever you're looking at appointments. It's whoever is the loudest and most excited in the room, but oftentimes it can be kiddos who won't necessarily raise their hand that need opportunities. So I would love for obviously an appointment to take place, but if there could be some sort of like formal application where kiddos, again, just thinking equitably, allowing kiddos who might not necessarily be the ones up front and center to have an opportunity to serve in this capacity.
Thank you.
Are we talking about high school or middle school or both? What's the feeling on that?
Oh, I'd turn that over to you. Right now, we do have a middle school student participating on the commission.
Right.
If I may,
Yes.
just building on that comment, actually, that is how the Student Route 66 Task Force is structured right now. We have co-chairs, and one is the high school co-chair, and one is the middle school co-chair. And same with the events co-chairs and communication co-chairs. One's the middle school and one's the high school. And at the very beginning, the students came up with this idea because they said it was really important that we balance the middle school perspective with the high school perspective. So it certainly allows for broader participation across ages. Yes. No. And I believe this commission can actually, I think it's built into the language because I was reading that over while I was drafting the memo, but I believe you can recommend to the mayor an appointment. So if we went through, for example, an application process like Commissioner Slaughter is suggesting, then this commission could choose that applicant and then make a formal recommendation to the mayor. And the way I went ahead and adjusted the language on this presentation slide before you from how I have it in the memo. But essentially what I'm thinking is that you would want to choose the student in March or April of the previous school year, because then they would be lining up their activities for the next year, but they might not actually start their term until that summer or that fall, depending on what's going on with their lives and activities. Should the appointment of youth liaisons be required or optional? As required? Okay. Or as required. Okay. Chair Stephen? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah,
You're
so,
so quiet down there.
as long as it gets said, it doesn't have to be me that says any of it. I like the application idea for the stated reason, and others. That way we can see how much interest we get, and we could have two or three, and it doesn't have to be one from middle and one from high. It just kind of depends on the interest level, and the application process will also take some of the burden off the mayor. He won't have to necessarily do the vetting himself. The department can do it and maybe come up with a couple of good recommendations. I think the length of the term, I think you're right on with the time frame. The length of term, a year is probably good. A year to a young person is much longer than a year to an old person. And if they want to do it again, they can do it again. I think there should be no problem with multiple terms. And I also think they should be voting members, or maybe there's a probationary period and then a voting member. Because if we're looking for their input and then say you don't get a vote, that's probably not the right way to do it. So those are my thoughts.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
it may be difficult to see with how the presentation is up there, but Mr. Lee has his hand up on Zoom.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't see it.
Oh, no, that's quite all right. Well, I appreciate.
I'm not hearing you.
That's
Can
my
you guys,
fault.
Oh. Mhm.
can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I did want to just mention, I did want to ask a quick question here, and just to see what is the current, and Robin, I think you'd be the best person to answer this. What is the current level of interest that we have for, either the remaining students that aren't necessarily, I don't know how many, I don't think we even had too many seniors, but we had some high school students. How many students are looking to potentially, continue this in a role like this? And do we have a lot of interest in having students, do you think we'd get a lot of applications is the question I was just trying to refer to.
Well, I can definitely, I would say, and I will defer to Nolan after I answer this, but I would say most of the students participating on the task force currently would be interested in doing it again. Would you?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm pretty sure everybody who has said something about continuing this for the Route 66 Student Task Force has said that they want to keep doing this and they really enjoy this type of environment.
As for students at large, I think we would have to send out an application and we would learn a lot from that first application cycle.
Okay, thank you, Robin. One other thing, I just wanted to really show support for this. Getting young individuals, especially young individuals from our neck of the woods out here in Wildwood, I can't state the importance of that, especially, young man Nolan here, dedicating his time, to be here with us. I just think this is an excellent opportunity for not only them to make a difference in the community, but also learn quite a bit about how local government functions. And I do believe that, these great achieving students, they're our future. So getting them involved in the process as soon as possible to give them the tools necessary to, potentially maybe pursue a life in public service. So hopefully, we have people like Nolan and the rest of the student Route 66 task force taking up our chairs eventually. So just wanted to point that out. And I think I support all of the items here, and definitely having them have a say in a vote, maybe a probationary period like Councilmember Rambo had stated, but just wanted to get that out there.
Thank you very much. Elizabeth.
We've had a conversation about that. Got it.
If I may, I'm just going to ask Nolan if he would like to speak to his experience this year serving as the youth liaison to this commission and what he thinks moving forward.
Thank you. Yeah, I really love getting to work with this. I've learned a lot from being able to just even sit here and listen to how you talk and, how you plan all this stuff out and how it actually gets to become an actual thing like this Essen log cabin. It's kind of cool to watch it grow from an idea to an actual project. And I would more than be glad to be able to continue to be a part of this and work with this. So I think it's really cool that we're revisiting, letting other youths and even me continue to be a part of this task or commission, sorry.
And would you like a vote?
Yeah, definitely.
Any other questions or discussion now?
Well, if it possible, would someone make a motion providing a general direction to the department of what type of language we should be looking at drafting for your review next month?
Required. Let's create the position and fill it. I think the length of work it would be 2 years. Nolan, he's up to speed. And maybe be a 2-year service and bring in just Nolan would talk. That other person would then have a year. In your second year, you get the vote.
Could we discuss that for a second? Is that possible?
Yes.
The 2-year term, just 2 points. One, there are a lot of within the association space, which is where I work. So I have some like weird governance things in my head. Oftentimes organizations will do 1 year with an option for a second year, just knowing that like a lot of people will self-opt themselves out for a 2-year commitment and thinking about, I am pretty far removed from middle school, but not too far. And I remember a year's worth of time feels huge. And sometimes that self-selects you out of other activities. So I was really involved with like girls' state, and that was my junior year of high school, and that could be your only activity. So for me, I would never be able to join the commission for all of high school because it basically wouldn't have, that commitment is really huge, but there are kiddos who might be able to make that. So the idea of a mandatory one with an option for a second feels like it kind of meets both of those requirements. So people who are invested and would like to do this for the full length, great. But for those who would like to be involved, but understand that their commitment ability is limited.
Well, it's just like us. Certain period of time. It's where personal reason,
Totally.
schedules, changing work. Left. But going into it. Like, put 2 years. Up. Side. So. I wouldn't want to change a whole bunch of stuff. This is the way we operated, they would not.
Rob?
Yeah, I agree more with Ashley than with Jim on this particular point, just because a year is a very long time for younger people. They got more going on. Soccer might ramp up and they have to make a tough decision, and then they're bailing out and they feel like a failure, even if we don't look at them as a failure, because they have to resign their appointment, as opposed to a year that's renewable for once or twice, or as however many times we deem appropriate. I think that's probably, that my opinion is, that's a better way to do it.
Robin?
If I may, just from my perspective, also having been in education, I think I tend to agree with both of you in some respects. I agree that 2 years is a bit of deer in the headlights for someone who's really just looking at the next year when they're planning out their activities. But what I really like about what you're proposing is maybe we can incentivize a second year through, in your second year, you can have a vote. So that way we are encouraging a longer term of service with the youth that participate. It's just a thought.
So would a middle be your first appointment is for a year with an opportunity to renew, knowing that only folks who are serving a second term would get to vote? Because that kind of meets people both places. And then to your point, Jim, by the time they're eligible to vote, they're in it. They're a year in. Yeah.
I like that. Joe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My apologies to the commission. If the commission does move forward with the student liaison being a voting member, I believe the requirements that are applied to all of you will apply to that person, meaning you all make decisions relating to expenditures of funds, taxpayer funds. You also make recommendations relating to land use and other items that affect property values. So from that perspective, I would ask for a motion to proceed forward with formulating the components of a student liaison on the commission, allow Robin, Travis, and I to basically work with the city attorney, the city administrator, and bring back a format for you to act upon. Again, you have responsibilities that go far beyond what you may think. And oftentimes when you make a simple recommendation regarding a consultant, that's $40,000 of taxpayers' money that's going out the door. So we have to be cautious and careful and follow the rules. So a simple motion to proceed forward and bring back basically a program reflective of your comments that ultimately you can then look at and kind of piece together. Thank you.
Thanks.
See.
Yes, and bring back parameters based upon comments tonight.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
I,
Anyone opposed, say no. The motion has passed.
Madam Chair, can I ask? Is there, what are the legal parameters of an underage, officially underage person voting on expenditures and those kinds of things? Are you going to explore that, or, I mean, I'm sure you will, but I'm just curious.
Yes, again, like I say, you all do a lot of things that impact a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, we've got to make sure that legally that individual, that student can do those things and not put at risk the decisions of the commission. And that's where we'll settle on with the city attorney.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. Tom?
Oh, yeah, I had my hand up, but Joe actually finished it off right at the end there. I was just gonna say, I do endorse what Mr. Vunich here has said. And the one thing is, we would put together the parameters, and we would review what is acceptable and what is not. And then at the end of the day, our city attorney would review all parameters that we would put forth for your review. So you could, when that comes in, just know that that has been approved and has been checked against state, local, and national statutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin?
All right, thank you. That concludes that item.
So it looks like the next item is the history book update and launching.
Okay. Madam Chair and Commissioners, as you know, while we haven't necessarily spent a lot of time talking about the Wildwood History Book at these commission meetings, there has been a lot of work behind the scenes. And at this moment in time, the Wildwood History Book is now fully formatted into its new size. It is looking very finished and polished at the moment. I have not given you a draft to review, though I admit our new commissioner over there may have a sneak peek, because I thought it would be helpful for her to have some history of Wildwood. But the reason I don't have it before you is because we are so close to having really that hard copy proof for us all to look at. And I think it'll just be really nice for you to view it at that time. Plus our Ms. Von Gruben still needs to assign the page numbers to the table of contents in the index, and that's the final task. Next steps associated with the book, now that we are where we are, the department will be applying for the official copyright of the book, the unique ISBN number, and we'll be soliciting testimonials. And Ms. Von Gruben has actually been very active on that front as well. And I think we have quite a few individuals who are already interested in providing that to us. So we'll be looking at incorporating those. One proposed change that the book project team made in the course of doing all the copy editing and polishing of the book was that we are going to change the book's biography a little bit. And it started because the bios just weren't filling up the new size of the page. But then the question started, well, this has been such a labor of love. So many people have been extremely involved in getting this book together, and can we just include everybody's bio? So we ended up coming up with an authors and key contributors page, which is in your packet tonight to look at. And thus the following individuals would be honored for their role in authoring, designing, or managing the Wildwood History Book Project. And that includes Jill Von Gruben, Joe Vunich, Kathy Arnett, Robin Keefe, myself, Stacy Minkoff, Liz Weiss, Joe Harrell, and Robin Jorke. In addition, right beside that will be a long list of names of all who have assisted with the book, which includes all city council members to date and HPC members to date. So we worked really hard to research all of those names. And please, if you do see a name that's missing or misspelled, you let me know, because I want to get that right. So all of that is for your review tonight. There's also an acknowledgements page that talks a little bit more about the institutional partnerships involved in the book, including this commission's partnership with the Wildwood Historical Society and the Department of Planning. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at those 3 pages. I, of course, will take your comments for the next week or so. If you have anything you would like to comment on, you can comment now, or you can send me an email, and we're certainly happy to incorporate them. But is this commission okay with the direction that we went?
Any comments or questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Elizabeth?
Thank you. I believe we are going to turn around that proof to you by June, the June meeting. So we still have a couple months to go. Again, we're going to be collecting those testimonials. We're going to be getting the copyright finalized and the ISBN number, and hopefully by June. And we were really excited too that we were able to find that old Gazette picture of Joe and Kathy on the steps of the old City Hall to be in the biography, and Joe's real thrilled. But I thank you for your support on that change. And now, as we move into publishing the book, we need to start planning its launch, because we are on target for Celebrate Wildwood. We can make this happen. So we need to start assembling a committee for all intents and purposes to plan. So I've included a list of names here tonight, including our interim city administrator, Thomas Lee, as needed, our director of planning, Joe Vunich, our assistant director of planning, Melanie Ripito, Kristen Nager, superintendent of Parks and Recreation, given that she will be substantially in charge of planning our Celebrate Wildwood event, myself, Jill Von Gruben, the primary author of the book from the Wildwood Historical Society, Linda Camp, president of the Wildwood Historical Society, and of course, a couple commissioners from yourselves. So the department requests now tonight that you make a motion authorizing your chair to appoint 1 or 2 commissioners to this book launch planning committee. So this will be the committee that kind of makes it happen. So that's the work you'd be signing up for. And then just so you know that you will be a part of all major decisions regarding the book, this item will be on the agenda for every meeting up until Celebrate Wildwood. So this commission will have some input regardless of whether you're on that committee or not. But with that, I do ask for that motion.
I'll make the motion. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Looking for a motion.
So moved.
You're looking for a motion. I so move.
Any comments? There's a second. Any other comments? All those in favor? Yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no? You have it. And I will talk with some commission members and make the appointment and announce it later.
Thank you.
Madison Valley, the plaque.
I'll just stay up here. All right, commission members, we have a few updates for you, followed by some discussion items. So at our last meeting, I spoke of working with Jackie Torno of Engraphics Architectural Signage to determine some cost estimates for the Wildwood historic marker type for the plaque. And she did return those estimates, which you have in your packet this evening. Given these estimates, the department is recommending that this marker be one-sided. We think that this is very doable, given the direction of the commission at the last meeting, which was to eliminate the visual depiction and focus on the broader community story. So the department is recommending that to you this evening. I'm not going to ask for a motion on it yet because it might coincide with our review of the content. Moving on, as far as the location update, as you know, commission members, we did narrow down the preferred locations for this marker to the strip of land that the city of Wildwood owns from a past bridge project, and also to locations within Babbler State Park. The department had reached out to appropriate contacts at Babbler at the last meeting, but we hadn't yet finalized on a date to meet. We now have that date, and that is Friday, May 5th. So we'll be meeting with several Babbler Park representatives at that time and determining what is doable from their perspective and what locations we are left with. Once we have identified what locations we have available to us, then we'll start scheduling site visits with this commission. I believe the opinion of our public works director right now is that yes, it is. And, you know, obviously there would be further study if we went forward with that location. So moving forward to content. At the last meeting of this commission, as I just mentioned, I took away from this commission a direction to focus on the greater community around the Madison Valley and Wild Horse Creek Road area, including that broader story. Your chair also suggested that we name several of those individuals or try to name all of them. So I took that as well. And then we talked about eliminating the visual depiction so that we're less focused on Elijah Madison and more focused again on that community story. Given the department's recommendation as far as a one-sided marker, I also gave you some examples of word counts for one side of the marker. So a shorter history was on our Fox Creek Historic Community marker with 114 words. Our one side of the Westland Acres Historic Community marker was 193. Our new proposed content is 168. I'm going to go ahead and read it to you at this time, and then I hope that this commission will offer me comments and direction moving forward. So what we have now is more than 8,000 enslaved men in Missouri joined the United States colored troops during the Civil War, 1861 to 1865, on behalf of the Union, including many who had previously worked the large hemp plantations at present-day Madison Valley, named in honor of Elijah Madison, and Wild Horse Creek Road area just north of Babbler State Park. In Missouri, despite the Emancipation Proclamation, slave ownership remained legal because the state was part of the Union. However, in 1863, the War Department passed Order Number 135, which allowed enslaved men to emancipate through enlistment even without owner consent. Corporal Elijah Madison and Private Stapleton Madison, Lewis Rawlings Sr., Henry Hicks, Henry Anderson, Warren Hawkins, Reuben West, Norman Hawkins, and James Green all enlisted so they and others could be free. Slavery was officially abolished in Missouri on January 11th, 1865. Many of these men returned to the area after the war as farmers and community leaders and are buried in Mount Pleasant Baptist Church Cemetery, not far from Madison Valley.
Excellent. Will that give us room to have?
Would you like to see a heading?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
I think it's good that we're encompassing more than just one person
Yeah.
Because they were all in it together. Rob?
Madison Valley, or the name, the date, and then the verbiage that suggested.
The name of or the date of Madison Valley. The reason I did not include. Sure. I suppose the reason I stayed away from creating the heading was because I couldn't really get a handle on a specific date. Like, this isn't one of our historic communities where there's an established by date. Do we focus on the Civil War? Do we focus on when they came home and made the community what it was through their actions and leadership? I don't know, but if members of this commission have some ideas, I would certainly love to hear them.
I think your verbiage already addresses the dates and the time. I think you do a good job of doing that already.
Right.
And I think if there were to be a date, it feels like the date that jumps out to me would be when Madison Valley became Madison Valley and we left, the previous name. So that's the only date that feels like it would be applicable to Wildwood specifically, but I don't necessarily know that I feel like it's necessary. I think you have addressed dates, but that to me, Mr. Rambo is the date that kind of pops out to me if we were set on having a date.
Yeah, the only reason I'm not set on any of this.
Yeah.
We had a display of the other historical markers out in the rotunda there for a while, and or whatever that's called, the lobby. And each one had hollow and a date. And this here, we're trying to, it seems like we should make the effort to try to be consistent if it's possible, but I understand that this is a special case. So I'm not arguing strongly. I'm just saying we should ponder it a little bit and just make them look similar if we can. But I wouldn't know what date to suggest, Civil War, end of the Civil War, or the establishment of Madison Valley, or that's a possibility, yeah.
Right.
So more of an aesthetic separation to keep it consistent.
Or the circa 1860s, something in that, the picture you're showing right now, that looks good to me, and it might be helpful. I don't have a strong feeling about it, but
There is a specific date associated with the establishment of the plantations in that area. I just don't know, I just don't know how you would want to correlate the heading of that. Maybe we just put that date in there.
well, it's just nice. It was nice to do the comparison for me personally, because I have an attachment to Hollow, and I noticed that it was the second oldest. Kelp was a little bit older, and my Tom Kelp and I harangued back and forth about who was established first, kind of thing, and so the dates are handy to give people a context. But again, Jim's completely right. They're in the verbiage. So.
Well, what if we put honoring, I had it, honoring those who served in the USCT, and then a date?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Something along
yeah,
those.
something like that.
something like that.
Because that's what we're trying to do with this anyway. So.
Great. I will take that direction and come back to you next time with a heading. So moving along, additionally, in addition to bringing back more content for your review, We also looked at creating a project schedule and really a thorough review and comment process for all those who might be invested in this project. So on the second to last page of your memorandum tonight, I have listed this project schedule. At the last meeting, it was discussed that the fabrication of the marker and when it needed to be installed might enforce somewhat like, the schedule as a whole. That is true. I learned from Jackie Torno that we need to give them about 10 weeks lead time before the marker would be ready for installation. So the department is recommending that we tie up that review process by September of this year. So our proposal for you this evening is that some of our next steps, as we finalize things with Babbler State Park and as we finalize the content via this commission, is we hold a public information meeting where we invite all the area residents and hold that meeting at a somewhat close location. We're thinking maybe Babbler State Park might be appropriate or some other location in that general area. We're also proposing at that same time that we hold that public information meeting really just as soon as I can, that I start developing a page on the city's website with the proposed marker content, the history of the area, the history of Madison Valley, the project schedule and other background information. And we start promoting that on social media through our e-newsletter and, definitely making sure that everybody knows that this is happening and that they can be a part of the process. We're suggesting that we then have 2 formal public hearings. One would be at this Historic Preservation Commission, followed by your action on the department's recommendation report. And then the second one would be at City Council towards the end of the review process.
Did we do all of this for the other monuments? Did we have all these public hearing meetings on verbiage? Because we were very concerned about neighborhood interaction and some of the neighbors were concerned, but now with the change of approach, it basically pulls that street out of the discussion. I mean, as far as conflict. So I don't know how deep we have to, how many times we have to talk about it. Just a question.
Well, I think we're just being cognizant of not just the area residents, but anyone who might be invested in this conversation, the descendants of the individuals mentioned, that sort of feedback as well, and just making sure that we do give an appropriate hearing if anybody does want to assert their voice. Basically, it never hurts to make yourself available as much as possible, because then at the end of the process, if anyone complains, well, they certainly had that opportunity to participate. It is about being transparent. Is there anything that this commission believes the department should refine as part of this process?
Verbiage is great. It's beautiful.
All right. Oh, thank you. All right, that concludes that item. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is Westland Acres update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the commission, my apologies for you receiving the report, the memorandum late today, but I was holding out hope that I would be able to talk to a key community leader, the former pastor of Union Baptist Church, Dr. Harvey Fields. I've left a message for him. He has taken a new position leading Washington University and now is at Harris Stowe State University. So I wanted to at least update you on that information, that we are in the process of contacting Dr. Fields. The reason I believe Dr. Fields will be a key contributor is that, again, he was pastor of Union Baptist Church for many, many years, has continued to play a role in Westland Acres despite not being the pastor any longer. And for the most part, I think he is an excellent resource for us to bring in first and foremost as we move forward. I hope by the May meeting at the end of May, I'll have more information to provide to you, along with the contacts of those key contributors that we'll be meeting with as our subcommittee. So again, my apologies for the late arrival of the memorandum. But again, I was hoping to have more information tonight. If there's any questions, certainly Travis, Robin, and I would be glad to respond to them at this time.
Jim?
Yes, prior to his passing, Mr. Madden attended Union Baptist Church. His wife no longer lives in Wildwood. I believe she's in Pacific near her daughter, but certainly if we would like to loop in anybody we can, that would be, I think, a wonderful gesture.
Stan?
My back is hurting. That's all. I do this in council meetings a lot too. So I'm sorry.
Well, that's fine. I just wanted to give you a chance to speak if you wanted to.
If I'm old.
No.
Right. It's the mileage.
Stored.
I've had people say to me, "Oh, I'm just getting old."
Hmm.
And I said, "No, you're not old until you hit the 90 mark, and then you can start being old." So you're not old yet.
Vintage.
Okay, our next item after that is the Essen Log Cabin update.
Well, first, I would just say age is just a number. But yes, tonight I will be giving the update on the Essen Log Cabin. Currently, our recommendation and proposal for Pattern and Ives to be our primary consultant for the project is before the Wildwood City Council, and we expect that to conclude in June. May 8th. Okay, it will conclude May 8th, and then we can really get started with this Essen Log Cabin. However, in other news, we have been flooded with interest and phone calls since the reconstruction came out in the West News magazine, which I know about because apparently my mom saw it and clipped it all out because she saw my name in it and made sure that it got to me. Yes. But I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Wait till she sees the book. She's really gonna be so excited.
She's like, I had no idea you were involved in all that. There's plenty of more worthy individuals. Oh, you mean the article? No, plenty of more worthy individuals. I was not even involved when the cabin got stolen. Anyway, so I have been receiving a number of contacts. Some of them were mentioned in your memorandum this evening. So I won't get into it too much, but obviously several members of the Essen family have reached out to me, including Carl Essen, who you met this evening and who has been involved in the past, I think, with the tagging of the logs. Yep. But several other members of the family have also reached out. They're all very keen on having a big Essen family reunion. Apparently there's 100 cousins. And if they all donate just $100, then maybe we can just finance the whole cabin that way. But in all seriousness, I think there's a lot of invested individuals who want to be a part of this project and process. There may be some antique tools that are period correct from that time that could potentially be donated to us for education and interpretation opportunities. And then we've also had a really interesting contact. You might see up on the screen before you some logs. A gentleman reached out to me, and he actually has his own reconstructed cabin on his property that he apparently built himself. But he is also the custodian of the logs that were never utilized by the city of Manchester for a log cabin at the Manchester Ballpark. So these logs are being held at his property. And he said that if we can use them, and he has some other materials as well, roof rafters, floor joists, and all kinds of things. He said the consultants are certainly welcome to come out and look at them and see what could be used. But that we could use these logs as a way to piece the Essen log cabin back together, because there was some materials that were missing after the recovery. So while we got most of the logs, we didn't get all of them. So that's really exciting, and we are investigating that further. And Travis, if you go to the next slide, this is not relevant to those logs, but this is his reconstructed cabin. Apparently, he reconstructed it from a property that was in Troy, and he lives out in Cuba, Missouri. So lots of people are very, very excited about our cabin project and want to help in one way or another. Thank you.
Well, that's encouraging. Any questions for Robin at this point? Okay. The Champion of History nominations.
Again,
Yes.
thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the commission, the department has prepared for your consideration tonight in action the final report that it would like to forward to City Council regarding Paul Wojciechowski. As you know, this item was brought up at the beginning of this year, and we've worked through the different components of the Memorial Tribute Program. And at our last meeting, a unanimous vote was taken to proceed forward. So tonight, the department has prepared this memorandum, which will be forwarded to City Council if a favorable vote is taken. Again, respectfully, the department would request a motion, second, and voice vote to proceed forward and submit the recommendation report to City Council.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dan?
I propose a motion that you proceed with Mr. Lau.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
One last item, I did take the liberty to forward the report to Paul's wife, Sharon, and she responded back regarding the Champions of History nomination. That is so awesome, as he did have a passion for improving cities. I will share this information with our kids. So nice pardon me, it is, can't read it, I need my glasses. It is so nice of you to work with gathering the information to nominate Paul. It makes me happy to know how much he was appreciated by the city.
Very
So,
good.
very nice gesture on all of your parts. Thank you.
I'm not familiar. How old are his children? I never really heard him talk that much.
When I went to the viewing of Paul, there were a number of pictures of him and his children. I would say they're in their late 20s, early 30s. Yes, as you know, the Champions, which is the designation that the commission recommended for Paul, does include a number of purchases. And so there is an expenditure of funds. The department will take it through City Council.
We need, you made a motion?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Sure.
Jim, second? Any other discussion on this? All those in favor say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion has carried.
Thank you very much. I know Sharon and his children are very appreciative. The other item under this same heading of the agenda relates to Judy Som. At the last meeting in March, there was a question raised about Ms. Som and how she might have been the origin of the discussion relating to a tribute program. So tonight, the department has prepared a memorandum reflecting Ms. Som's role here at the City of Wildwood on the Historic Preservation Commission, as well as her other activities over the course of the period of time. Robin, our investigative sleuth, was able to find an article regarding Ms. Som as well, which we attached to the memorandum as further supporting materials. Following through the components of the three levels, it's apparent that Ms. Som did not serve on the commission the necessary amount of time, but again, in this particular instance, could be considered a sustaining member for the purposes of the tribute program. If there are any questions or comments, the department would be glad to respond to them now. And it is seeking direction from the commission members tonight. Thank you.
Is most familiar with her activities on the commission?
Actually, there's none of the current commission members were on the commission at the time of Ms. Som's service.
That's the reason why, and that was a segue. Can you express your own opinion and experiences and what your recommendation would be?
Well, first and foremost, Ms. Som was a archivist that, for the most part, could not be challenged relative to the incorporation in the early years of the city of Wildwood. In the article, you'll see that she had 6+ boxes, full boxes of just information regarding the incorporation effort, which she was the secretary of the organization that ultimately won the vote and allowed the city to become a municipality, or Wildwood. On the commission itself, she always was one that listened more than talked, but never failed to volunteer for any of the extra activities associated with it. I would also note that she was part of the Wildwood Historical Society, and I believe had a leadership position there during her tenure. So again, necessarily one that spoke a lot, but was always there when you needed her.
Your recommendation would be what level of award?
Given the criteria that's been established and adopted by the commission, I would recommend that she be a sustaining member and that you would proceed forward with a favorable recommendation.
Nice. She is one who encouraged me to submit a possible being on the commission. The night that the stolen log cabin was the talk of the town was commission meeting night, where I was interviewed by the commission on the Hamilton family. So I've really had a passion for the log cabin because that was all going on then. And I was impressed with her. She really, Wildwood was a love for her. And then I was in contact with her a few more times and was shocked then one day to read her obituary in the paper. So I think that would be very special.
So Mr. Rout and I could not give a better endorsement than what you just heard from the chair.
I just had one quick question. It seems that she did pass away while serving on the commission. If she would have been able to fulfill her full term, would she have met that 6-year requirement?
Yes.
Is it, instead of, then would we consider maybe honoring and assuming that she would have finished that term if she was able, and awarding her the champions?
The end of her term was not one where she was able to attend. So there was an extended period of time where she was seated. still acknowledged as part of the commission, but didn't attend the meetings. So it is a decision to the commission if they'd like to offer her the highest level of recognition in the tribute program. Again, I would balance that against what we know of Paul and his role.
I think sustaining member, that she would be very proud.
I'd like to propose the motion that we go with Joe's recommendation.
Second. Alan seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Anyone against? No. It has passed.
Thank you. I know her family will appreciate it.
Yes. I can remember when I was first on the commission as an alternate, Larry Thompson was very involved in the commission. And I noticed in the acknowledgement list, and I don't know how long he'd been on the commission or done, because I was just coming aboard when he was ill and wasn't here too much. Is there any thought to that? I mean, you know, as I say, I don't know what all he has done.
Well, certainly with just a nod of heads, the department will investigate Mr. Thompson's term, length of service. I will say that if you go inside Old Pond School, the wood burning stove was a gift of Mr. Thompson to the city and the commission itself. So again, just a wonderful gentleman. Took too soon, I guess, from our perspective, his illness. But certainly, if you'd like, we'll do a little investigation and get you a report back.
I think as long as we're doing it to get us up to speed, having not done anything, it would be good to look into it and see if we can just get them all taken care of at one time.
Well, we're certainly glad to invest the time, and
Good.
it's interesting just to see how large of a role so many people play to
Right.
get us to this point.
Okay. Turn to Georgia. The JP Connell House. You shouldn't have sat down.
Good for me to move around. Thank you again, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of the commission, Robin and I discussed preparing a memorandum, but quite frankly, I think I can do it just in a few short sentences, which will be always a challenge for me. But I did have a conversation with the representative from St. Albans, the gentleman that met us out at the property the day we visited the JP Connell House and the other structures that they were requesting to demolish. Mr. Keppel was very gracious, said it's still under advisement, that the team at St. Albans is reviewing the options and actually discussing it with development entities to see if there is a true interest to proceed forward. So the good news is it's still under advisement and review by the owner. The bad news is I don't have a definitive answer for you even after all of these months. But as we know, sometimes pressing to get an answer can lead to an outcome we don't want. So they're taking care of the property. I do stop by occasionally just to make sure the doors are locked and it's not being vandalized. And if I do notice anything with the property, they're very quick to respond. So it's a good group of people, and I'd like to give them the time to kind of make their decision, not necessarily force a decision.
Thank you. That's always good to hear good news.
And that was more than a few sentences. My apologies.
That's okay. Work program, Robin.
All right, well, as you saw, the old business was 10 items long, so there's not a whole lot of updates that we haven't already given you. But we are moving forward with the historic survey of properties for years 2023 through 2025. Right now, we're working with Michael Allen of the Preservation Research Office to develop an agreeable proposal and move forward from there. So that's where we're at with that. And of course, this item will come back onto the agenda once we're a little bit more substantially ahead. If you have any questions, I am available, and as is Director Vunich and Senior Planner Newberry.
I believe that there is money set aside under our capital improvements program for 2023. There's a general line item category that says capital equipment and fixtures or something. It's been well funded by city council over the years. Typically, we use it to replace swings, fix things that break in the parks and along the trail corridors. This is a capital item because it is an investment and it'll be with the city for many, many years. So I think we can move forward as soon as we settle on all of the items relating to it. Thank you.
And we can also go back to the fact that it was the council who put this deadline of when it would be completed. So they had to have something in mind when they made that. And we're glad they did. The CLG visit update in October.
That's right. So you may remember that several months ago, we talked about potentially having our CLG coordinator and the grants manager from the State Historic Preservation Office visit us in April or May. Unfortunately, I took a little too long in choosing my month, and by the time we did, our CLG coordinator had been drawn away to another event. So we then went back and forth and negotiated to October for this visit. He is excited. He said he'll wear a Halloween mask. He was joking, but then I was like, well, I don't know. Our chair comes decked out in St. Patrick's Day gear and bells tonight. So you might just fit right in with your Halloween mask. But anyway, in all seriousness, they do look forward to meeting this commission after all this time.
Do we know time periods or anything like that at this point
Time
on that
period.
day?
Oh, it would be, so they'd be meeting with a small group of us before the meeting, and then they would be attending the meeting of the commission and potentially presenting to the commission if we set aside some time for it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just a bit of notice of the bells. I answered something that Robin had sent in an email to me, and I said, I'll be there with bells on. And she writes back, she says, only if they jingle jangle. So I had to jingle jangle tonight. The next meeting will be on Thursday, May the 25th, right before Memorial Day weekend. And that's it sounds like there's enough things going forward that it's going to be another interesting meeting. And all of our meetings are interesting. And it's because we're so active in doing things. And it's thanks to the leadership that we have to help us out. Because without Joe and Robin, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. Any other comments for the evening? Then our meeting is, oh no, I had to have a motion. Motion to adjourn. Rob? He's exercising now. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say yes. Anyone against? Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks, Tom.